What happens when ADHD meets menopause, wilderness survival, and naked and afraid? Our guest today proves that neurodivergence isn't a barrier, it's a survival skill. She was diagnosed with borderline ADHD back in the 90s, chose a non-medicated path, and has spent decades exploring how nature, Tantra, and extreme challenges can transform the way we see our brains. This is a conversation about resilience, creativity, and finding calm in the wild.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Feeling Seen. On the podcast this week, I have a very interesting lady, and you need to stick around because there's lots of interesting stuff here. Tara Scubella, that's correct? That's how I'm terrible with pronouncing of names, so I always check it like a dozen times. So, you're slightly different from a lot of people that I've interviewed recently in that you had a much earlier diagnosis. A lot of people I've been talking to recently tend to have a later diagnosis. So can you tell me about your diagnosis?
Yes. So, sure. Yes. So I was diagnosed while I was in college, and I'm almost 53 now. So this was, let's see, 1995. I graduated in 97, and I was taking some classes to become a teacher, some psychology classes. And in the books back then, they had this ADD, ADHD thing in the psychology books. And I remember being taught that this was like this up and coming diagnosis. And I remember the teacher was really emphasizing this as well. And I went through the checklist that was in the book or something. And I think everything but like one item. That's me. But it was really interesting because I always felt like I was a little different or awkward or kind of out there. And it was like, it's like the heavens opened and the sun came shining down on me. I was like, oh, I belong somewhere.
Uh,
Yes.
I get that. I get that for sure. So did it change how you reacted to things? Did it make you think through things?
Yes and no. So I chose not to go on any medication. And I also went to a specialist that the school referred to me um near Kansas City. I was going to school in Maryville, Missouri at Northwest Missouri State University. And so I went to this clinic in Kansas City who did it free for students. And um I was diagnosed back then, it was ADD and ADHD, and I was diagnosed borderline in between. So the inattentive hyper. And I remember that there were some tests. It was like a spatial awareness test, and I had scored like the highest that they had seen, and it was, like a 99 percentile or something.
Wow.
And so I kind of felt like I was like badass. Can I say that word?
You can say that.
Okay. So I kind of felt like I was like really cool. Like I had like this little like superpower. And then a lot of other things were like super classical ADHD as well. But I decided not to take any medication. I figured I had gotten that far, right? I graduated from high school, I was in college, and I thought I think I can get through life without medication. I'm going to be really awkward at it, probably. And yeah, so that was my beginning journey.
So it's funny. I chose the same direction, no medication. But I was diagnosed a lot later, and honestly, I like who I am. So, and I always had a fear that if I take the medication, maybe I would change who I am.
Mhm.
And so I'm slightly older than you, and I was just like, mm, no, I think I'm gonna stay. But there's definitely different views on it. One of my guests I spoke to recently took the medication route and was like, "You need to do this, and it's good for you." But no, personally, I chose not to, the same as you. Um, so one of the things, so you do a lot of retreats and you have a YouTube channel, but you also talk about how menopause changed it for you. Can you tell us some more about that?
So I'm in the thick of postmenopause. I've been postmenopause for 3 years now. And I went through perimenopause pretty early. It runs in my family. So that parts normal with my genetic makeup. And uh with all of the emotions, the highs and the lows, with the hormonal imbalance, went through the hot flashes, all of these things. I feel like the thing that is most connected to with my ADHD is the emotional waves. So I'm always a pretty happy, joyful person. I have been almost my whole life. But I'll fixate and like hyper focus on things that I've never hyper focused on before. And it's not, and what I'm talking about, that it's more like environmental things, things that are, I would say, maybe on the OCD kind of hyper fixation. I live with my beloved Darren, and like things just have to be like my way right now. So he's still with me after 10 years. But I feel like that's like this like hyper focus of things where it shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I mean, so I only found out a couple of years ago, and I'm postmenopausal too. And I feel like through that time I was probably very irrational. I mean, or very demanding, very needy, and all sorts of things. Worse than normal. I think I have those traits anyhow. So so tell me about your YouTube channel and the Tantra and how that all worked. Did that play into what you were doing through menopause as well?
Yes and no. So I was 40 years old, 40, 41 years old, 40. And I was it's a long time ago now. I was contacted by a casting company through the Discovery Channel in the US, and they asked me to apply for this television show called Naked and Afraid. And I do have a wilderness survival background. And they actually found me while I was writing a blog about having ADHD. It's still up, but I haven't posted in it forever. It's called Restless Genes, GENES.com. Anyway, and they asked me to apply for this show. I was married at the time with my ex-husband, and I said yes. I was immersed in a Panamanian jungle, survived for 21 days. The whole premise: no clothes, no food, no water. Anyway, so this was probably like cusp of perimenopause, entering perimenopause. And at that time in my life, I was actually pretty unhappy. I went from working outside to sitting in front of a laptop, writing grants for nonprofits and running a mentor program. But I wasn't out there mentoring kids. I was doing all the data collection and management piece. And I was really losing a sense of myself. And so I filmed January, February of 2015. So 10 years ago,
Oh my
then I
God.
came home, and I call it a spiritual awakening, is what I had when I came home. So that immersion into survival
Hmm.
really reset and regrounded me to who I was meant to be and why I was placed on this earth. And just kind of from that point on, like also really standing in my power with ADHD, and then the years to come with perimenopause to menopause and post. Um,
No, I mean,
yes.
I so I personally didn't watch the show, but I mentioned to a friend of mine, they're like, "Wait, Naked and Afraid? Wait, really?" Um, and the questions were, I don't know. So a lot of people I interview who are neurodiverse have jobs or have done things that really put them out there, right? Um, and Naked and Afraid, it seems like one that's right out there. I mean, do you think your ADHD had an impact on you doing this?
Oh, 100%, Donna, 100%. And And I remember early on in the seasons, we had a really tight-knit cast group. Now there's been so many seasons. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of us. But at the time, like 100 or less, right?
Yeah.
And I remember in our private Facebook group asking who here has been diagnosed or think they have ADHD. And quite a few people responded. And it was like 90% of the
Oh,
people that
wow.
responded were like, oh, yes, or I've always suspected. I mean, right? We're willing to take more risks usually, right? And I mean, what's more risky than being on television survive?
Naked surviving on TV. Yeah, no, that's a lot of risks. He also shows a lot of comfortableness in yourself, right? Which is a really good sign because they know a lot of people when they are neurodiverse, they're not very socially adept. I mean, as a kid, I was quite happy at being on my own rather than socially. So how do you cope with all these strangers in the middle of nowhere with nothing? I mean, you've got to have some great social skills for that one, I would imagine.
Well, in the basic show, it's just two people
Okay.
for 21 days. So that
Oh,
part
wow.
was pretty easy in a way. And then there's other kind of spin-offs where there's groups of people, like 12 or maybe less, or 14. It just depends. But yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't even imagine um, doing that. So when you came back, what changed? I mean,
Yes.
you said you were married, not married, or are married. I mean, did you find yourself?
Absolutely. And I'll say I refound myself because I had lost a sense of myself before. And so filming this television show really helped me spiral back into who I was meant to be. And that spiritual awakening, it sounds super woo-woo, but I had a massive download from the universe. Everything completely changed down to a cellular level in my body, in my essence. And it's like all of these doors flew open. I knew what I needed to do and I trusted this path. And along the way, I remember confiding in a friend and he said, oh, have you ever thought about Tantra that might save your marriage? Because I told them, I'm like, I'm thinking about divorcing my husband, which I kind of knew was going to happen anyway. And he said, oh, you should look into Tantra. That might save your marriage. Well, I knew that Tantra wasn't going to save my marriage, but I thought it might help me. And so in my first Tantric retreat with Don Cartwright, who's out of California, that first, I'll say half hour of that first retreat, I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm meant to do. This is the culmination of my life. And the next part of my life will be here on this path of Tantra. And then kind of what I bring in with that wilderness survival and nature connection before it was cool, nature healing before it was super trendy. Earth Tantra was birthed. And here we are today, 10 years later. So
for those who don't know what Tantra is, and I'm English and we tend to pronounce it Tantra, but Tantra. Can you, without getting my channel banned,
absolutely.
explain for those
Yes.
who don't know?
Oh, absolutely. And here in this States, it's taken to one extreme. Okay. So Tantra is all of life. The word, if you kind of separate it, tan or tantra, either pronunciation's fine, just depending on where you live in the world, means weaving, tra for expansion of, weaving for expansion of. And there are hundreds of practices within Tantra, which is why it's great for ADHDers. I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I want to know. And then I'll find my husband.
Okay. And so picking and choosing these practices that resonate with us at any moment, and we can change our mind with these practices, right? We're not expected to know them all either. So that's like breath work, meditation, ritual ceremony, which can freak people out if you're not so used to lighting candles, setting intention, etc. Um, energetic exchange and energetic movement within. And so that's actually what Tantra means to me, is energy moving within.
Okay.
And then if you want to share it externally, that could be with a lover, a spouse, a romantic partner. It could also be with your friends, your kids, your family.
Okay.
And then spirit. So these are kind of the pillars within Tantra. So yourself, somebody else, and spirit. Whatever that means to you.
Okay.
Okay. And Tantra is not a religion. Christianity can be woven into Tantra. Buddhism, Taoism. So kind of explaining it that way. And then one thing that sets Earth Tantra apart is that we also have this pillar of energetic exchange with nature and with the earth.
The wilderness side. Now, you mentioned that why it was good for ADHD and you were going to share that. Can you share that for us?
Yeah.
Why would it benefit me? I mean,
Yes.
I'm a 4 espressos a day, 100 friggin' emails, kids, and also, why would this work for me?
Yes. So Tantra really helps us center our energy, live in a more calm way, connected way. And I like to say sensual, intimate way. Sometimes we attach the word sex to that. Okay. But it doesn't have to be. Sensual and intimacy could be breastfeeding, eye contact with somebody as we're speaking. So the word intimacy can be used many different ways. Being in the present, being whole, full.
Actually, that sounds so definitely the eye contact thing. For me, I lose focus and I pick up my phone and I get distracted. I'm trying to be more in the moment, which is, I don't know if that's an ADHD thing across everybody, but I imagine it is very similar. Trying to just focus after I've asked a question, listen to the answer, because that's one of my big things. I ask the question, but I don't actually listen most of the time to the answer. So, um, and a lot of people have talked about meditation, and also as a way to deal with the ADHD and the loss of focus and all sorts of things. If somebody was starting out, and so meditation has been recommended to me multiple times to do, if they were starting out with Tantra, and like the inner spirits and that, what small thing could they start with, and how would they build it out?
Ah, yes. So one of the first things I always recommend is breath meditation and just a simple belly breath. And then Tantra has a very specific breath that's similar to Kundalini, where you draw in energy into the root and bring it up into the heart and then back down. And this is one of my favorite breathwork and meditation practices because you can move the energy and hyper focus on it. And there's a pathway as we bring in that healing energy into the body. And then that basic tantric breath or root to heart breath, there's many different names for this breath pathway, can be shared with other people, can be shared with the earth. It's a very calming and centering breath. And it can be woven into everything that we do, even included going to the bathroom. So, cooking, standing in line in a grocery store.
No, I actually, I felt like I was doing it at the same time, and I was starting to feel that carving when I was like, wait, I feel like there's lots of moments in my day I could do this, right? Just, yeah, no. And the grocery store is definitely one of them, for sure, because it's just like people, noise, screaming children, cops. Oh my God, it's like the worst place for me. So that's cool. All right, so I'm learning so many things here, um, for sure. Okay, looking back over, I think, and so you've got your naked and afraid. You do a lot of outside stuff. You talked about when you had a job working on a laptop inside. It was n- like hell for you, and I get that because I spend all day at a laptop. So I mean, why do you think you're attracted to the wilderness, to the space, and do you think that's an ADHD trait or just like a trait that's personal to you?
Mm. I think it's an inherent trait for most people. However, with ADHD, it's like our senses become alive. Um, and as an ADHD person who is sensory seeking, also maybe sensory avoidant, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
I feel most alive outside,
Okay.
moving. The whole joke with the squirrel, right?
Yeah.
Like there's many things that we can tune into.
Okay. That makes
Yes.
sense. That makes sense.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if I have a an outdoor desire, but I have a travel or a see. I want to see different things. I don't like going to the same place over and over again. I want change. I personally don't like routine either. Um, so maybe that's my way of having it outside in, if you like. So. Okay, so ooh, so many interesting questions here. It's difficult for me to understand an earlier diagnosis just because I'm a later diagnosis. And for me, I've reflected on a lot of things that I've done and said in the past, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I really understand that. Do you think that, I mean, Naked and Afraid obviously was a huge turning point for you, but are there other points in your life where you've gone, oh, I wish I'd known, or I would have done something better? And do you, in your day to day, I don't know, try to do things differently because you know?
Mm. Well, I don't think I would do anything differently.
Okay.
Even in high school, I struggled a little bit with some academics. And I look back at that, I'm like, that just really helped me focus in on the things that I really enjoyed and that lit my inner passion. Um, when I was younger, my body really wanted to move a lot more. And so hiking, wilderness therapy, more of the adventure side really served me well. And now in my 50s, I'm okay not doing that anymore.
You,
But I'm also entering this new stage of like autumn queen, which is kind of between mother and crone.
Mhm.
So this part of my life where I'm kind of shedding things that I just don't need anymore. And I'm okay with all of that. I live on a farm, so I'm super
wow.
busy, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing for sure. And again, I'm kind of similar age, and I have the same thing, right? And you go through like the 20s and 30s, you really want to like work hard, get up there, and so that now at 50s, I'm just like, okay, I do this, and then I definitely got a better work-life balance than I may have done like 10, 20 years ago for sure. Um, so I have to ask because obviously I troll all my guests, right? That's what you do. The research troll, call it what you like, same thing. So you do a lot of retreats, and I see you were like couple of retreats coming up, and all sorts. Can you tell me how the retreats work? I saw you have one in Brazil, and I was like, oh, this is good. Um, but if somebody was coming on a retreat, and that's a couple retreat, why would they come? And do you get I guess, many neurodiverse people? Or can it work for everybody?
Yeah, so for whatever reason, Earth Tantra really draws in a lot of neurodiverse people and pretty far on the spectrum. Of course, somebody has to be independent enough to get here to wherever we're going to be. So, kind of within those different pieces of the spectrum. And those saying of those that, oh no, I can't even remember right now. Like with the same feather that fly together. Okay, whatever that's.
Yeah,
That's by my menopause.
I don't know it by yeah.
Somebody listening to this now is gonna be like, whoa.
Well, they can put it in the comments. Tell us what it is, baby.
Yeah.
So for
So
sure.
fly together, have the same feather or something. Anyway.
So birds of a feather of some yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like about that either. But I know what you mean. So yeah.
Yeah.
Or what do you maybe it's birds of a stay together? Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Um so and so you don't have to be neurodiverse to go on them.
No.
Anybody can go on them. Yeah, they look really interesting. Like I say, I was looking and I saw like one in Brazil, and I was like, ooh, that sounds good. I could definitely do that for sure.
Or Honduras.
Yeah.
It's on Honduras.
Oh, is it Honduras?
Yes.
Maybe I was looking at an older one, and I was like, it was like a couple's retreat. Okay, so I mean, you're the most relaxed and happiest person that I've spoke for a while. And not saying that the rest of my guests aren't happy and stuff like that, but you just I don't know, blooming. That's it, blooming happiness and those sorts of things. So it clearly works for you. And honestly, I'm super jealous, right? Um, so if somebody was coming here today and I don't know, they saw the title or well, wasn't quite sure about this, maybe the whole conversation and like, wait, this is super interesting and I didn't know anything about this, right? What would you want them to take away from today? So from your learnings, what you've done.
Mm-hmm. I feel like whether we're ADHD or not, really listening to your heart and taking that path that feels best to you, even if it's completely different from what you're doing now, no matter what age you are.
Follow your heart.
Mm.
I love that. I do love that. I mean, so I don't know if you know much of my background, but I work in corporate, I work in SEO, and finding out, and it was a colleague actually at work a couple of years ago told me my ADHD was coming through. And I was like, wait, I'm not ADHD. And then started doing more research, and then when I got tested, and sure enough, I was. And I feel that has given me the freedom to follow my path. It's definitely, I'm definitely happier knowing I'm not meditated, but now I understand more. I've written a book, my podcast, and I get to talk to tons and tons of amazing people like yourself, which I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I learned something from each. So I definitely am going to take that breathing thing to start for sure. Because even so it even felt just for like that second that I did it, that I had a relief from the world, right? All the stress and anxiety, because I was like super focused on there, and it kind of like threw me off some of the questions I really wanted to ask you today. But I really appreciate that because yeah, no, it felt good. So Tara, I am so pleased you came onto this call today. I really enjoyed talking to you and learning from you and seeing how happy you are. So for everybody who was watching, I'm going to add the links to the description so you can go and find more about Tantric Earth. And if you know what the exact phrase of the birds of the feather is, please put that in there too. But Tara, it's been amazing. Thank you very much for talking to me today.
Thank you for our conversation, Donna. Thanks for having me.